Hello and welcome. I was thinking about titling this video "Why We Can't Have Nice Things in This World." So that might be the title of it, but I'm unsure of at the moment as of recording, but probably might be. And the reason why I've come to this thought process is that in this world, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. For me, I'm here in UK in London. There just seems to be negativity and toxic energy around everything and anything these days, and it's like you can't, as my title might be, you can't have nice things in this world, because there's always somebody, or they use the term a killjoy, that just wants to sit there and take the fun out of everything. And it doesn't matter whether or not it's to do with video games, it could even be sports, movies, things like that. We just can't seem to have fun in everything, and it just takes away all the enjoyment out of everything. And for example, in video games, right, as an example, obviously you got the 3 different main companies now. Obviously, at one point it was 2 back in the day with Sega and Nintendo. But obviously this has all changed with PlayStation and Xbox adding. And even before the Switch 2 came out, it's like every other day, as regular as clockwork, there's a negative story about Nintendo. And some of it's just really kind of petty and just a nothing story. And sometimes it's almost as if that people are just pumping out these stories just to get headlines and views and interaction. And yeah, I'm all for when something that, you know, is being posted where it's important in the fact that it's affecting consumers, you know, like say the price of games, or, you know, as of what's happened with Xbox, the layoffs and developers being cancelled, studios being cancelled or closed, just one and the same thing, or games being cancelled. And especially if it's a franchise that you know, like, that you love. And I can understand that. And so you're being affected, or the price of game consoles going up as well as video games. And you can understand that because obviously, as a gamer like myself and other millions across the world, this is going to affect you, because obviously it's going to make it harder for you to sit there to buy video games, because obviously it's going to be a lot more expensive. So sometimes with that, I do get it. But like every other day, it's Nintendo this, Nintendo that. And I've made jokes saying things like new week, same old Nintendo stories, and then you just get tired of it. And then when I see some of these YouTubers constantly doing it, for me, you see it in the thumbnail, and I know why they do it. For me, it's an instant turn off, because I just don't want to watch the video. And it's not because I'm a fanboy of a particular gaming company, because I like all of them. I like Xbox, I like Sony, and I like Nintendo. And yeah, none of them do things that are necessarily perfect in terms of the way they treat the consumer. And so, as well with the, I just dropped something there, in terms of the prices and of their games and consoles always forever going up. But I don't have any allegiance to kind of any of them, so it just gets a bit too much. And obviously with the advent of social media, which that in itself is a double-edged sword with everything else, it just becomes too much, and it's just too consuming. So for example, with me, it's like what ends up happening, especially in the subject matter that we're talking about with video games. Although I love video games, sometimes it can be just, I just feel like as if I'm falling out of love with it, even though that I still love it, if you see where I'm coming from. And it just makes me think, oh, you know what, I just don't enjoy video gaming anymore. And I miss the days of the back in the day when you used to sit there and get the magazines of certain video games, although you didn't necessarily agree with the reviews. And that's just life, because again, it's people's opinions. And I missed getting it because it was once a month. And then obviously being young, we couldn't afford to have every single new game that are out. So you kind of had to pick and choose what game that you could and couldn't have, whether it was for Christmas or as a birthday, or, you know, sometimes you'd be lucky to get one in a sale, so it saved you a lot more money in terms of buying a video game. So you had to pick and choose what video game that you could have, especially back in the day when they were all on cartridge, obviously with the NES, Super Nintendo, Mega Drive and stuff like that. And they weren't exactly cheap, especially here in the UK, where if there was a particular video game that you wanted, say like when Street Fighter 2 first came out on Super Nintendo, and friends of mine would buy the American version to play in the UK consoles, and if you bought the import version of a Super Nintendo cartridge, it was a lot more expensive. But I remember, for example, my friend of mine, he had a Super Nintendo, and he bought Street Fighter 2, the American version of it. And I remember, obviously, he had to buy the actual replay cartridge, so you could play foreign Super Nintendo games on the UK Super Nintendo. And we would go around his house playing on Street Fighter 2, and doing tournaments, and go around my friend's house at college after during lunch break or even after college, and having Street Fighter 2 tournaments, and it was just fun. And you didn't take it seriously whether or not you lose or not, because everybody had various different abilities at playing the game. And then at times you would either something might lose against somebody, and I would pull out a couple of moves and actually have my day and actually win. And it was just exciting. And then remember when they did the Star Fox, or when it was first came out over here, it was Star Wing on the Super Nintendo, and they did a little tournament in what they did in this independent computer shop that we used to have in where I live, but obviously that's long since gone. And if you got like a high enough score on Star Wing, or Star Fox as known as, you would get a little certificate telling you congratulations that you got this amount of points in doing it. And it was just fun. And then eventually, when I got my own Super Nintendo, prior to that I had an NES, and when I had the NES, the first games I bought was Super Mario Brothers 3. And I remember seeing the yellow packaging with the raccoon Super Mario on the front of it, on the yellow box, and that was exciting. And again, I didn't have a lot of games for that system, and then friends of mine would let me borrow their video games, like playing the Turtle games. I know there was a Turtle games on the NES, and a friend of mine let me borrow the Legend of Zelda, the first one that was on NES, and some other games. And it was just fun. And then again, we got to the Super Nintendo. We got the Super Mario World pack, where you got the 2 joypads, and trying to find all 96 worlds and the special worlds and the Star World, and doing all that and trying to complete Super Mario World, and then eventually getting Street Fighter. For me, I eventually got given Street Fighter 2 Turbo on the Super Nintendo, and mine came in a metal limited edition case, which I still got the cartridge but not the metal tin for it anymore. And then you got the game and a little steel Street Fighter 2 pin, and playing Street Fighter 2 Turbo, and obviously that was a lot faster than the original one, and it was just so much fun. And then playing games like going to my friend's house and playing Aliens 3, R-Type, Bomberman. My brother ended up getting Super Metroid on the cartridge, which I think was the first 24 megabyte cartridge on the Super Nintendo, and getting Star Wing, or what it was called Star Fox everywhere else. To do with this copy, there was another game called Star Fox, or I think in Europe, so that's why it was called Star Wing. And then when the one on the N64 came out, it wasn't called Star Fox 64 over here. It was called the Layla Wars. And then it was just so much fun playing all these video games. And then after that, a friend of mine lent me his Mega Drive. He had about 20 to 30 video games for the Mega Drive, or I know it's known as the Genesis in America. And he lent me the joystick as well, and I had it for over 6 months to a year. And my biggest regret was that I should have bought it off of him. And I remember playing all the games like Sonic, Streets of Rage, Kid Chameleon. It was just fun. Or playing Street Fighter 2 in the arcades, and playing Rainbow Edition, the dodgy version of it, and Championship Edition, and Hyper Fighting. It was just fun. And then going up, and then GameCube, N64, PlayStation 1 and the PlayStation 2. And I remember when my mate had the PlayStation 2, and eventually I got my own PlayStation 2. It was a silver one, which broke, and I ended up buying a Slimline one a couple of years ago. And I remember getting it off of Argos, and then buying the GTA 3 and Vice City double pack, and playing that all night, trying to do all the missions, which were difficult, all the side missions, and trying to find all the parcels on both games. It was just, and then sorry, what was the other one? And all the Gran Turismo games that Gran Turismo games, all the games that came out, the GTA games that came out on the PlayStation 2, and it was just fun, and I miss those days. But now it's always constant negativity, and again, some of it is justified, but it's just every single day it's the same thing. And again, as I said, and you see some of these YouTubers, feels like to me that some of them are just grifting, where they're just targeting a certain type of audience, and then they just, like, especially when you see a lot of them just posting negative stuff all the time, and it just feels like they're not doing it they're doing the wrong thing they're doing the right things, but for the wrong reason, and it just takes all that joy away from video games. Even though I'm still collecting video games. I recently bought a Switch 2, which I'm absolutely loving, but at times it takes away all of that fun from video games, which I've enjoyed all my life, when you've seen all this toxic negative stuff and social media. Although I've met lots of people around the world, in different countries, and not met, but you've had a lot of people I'd call dear friends, even though I've never met them. But then there's a double-edged sword where you've seen people being negative, and these fanboy wars, and it's just too much. Then you get a similar thing with movies now. Obviously, what the thing with the Superman movies, and some of these people being stupid, and some of these silly reasons as to why they're not liking it. Again, it's all people's opinions, and at the end of the day, people are allowed to have opinions. But for me, it's that, as you can see, the small fraction of the movies that you can see here. Also, you can see the Star Wars and the Fantastic Four, and obviously the Superman collection, and you can see the house. And there's lots more Blu-rays, and obviously you've seen in my YouTube channel with the Blu-ray boxes that I've done, which isn't even a fraction of what I own, because I started buying Blu-rays way before I started doing obviously YouTube. So there's a lot of them that I haven't done, and then collecting Blu-ray steelbooks, especially with the artwork, and getting them really cheap. And most of the Blu-ray movies that I bought, I've actually really enjoyed watching them, and I'm proud of my collection. And I remember as a kid, you were limited to what movies you could watch, when obviously we had the 4 channels here in the UK, and it was pretty much random on when if there was a particular movie, say like Back to the Future was going to come on, and it would come on either like at Easter or Christmas, and either you would catch it, either you would know when it was going to be on, so you could watch it from the start. And other times watching the British sitcoms from the 70s and the 80s, which I absolutely loved. And obviously later on, and then you couldn't, and then I didn't have any movies at all, in terms of either recorded, the ability to record them or physically owning them. Like the first VHS cassette tape that I was ever given was the 1996 movie Transformers the movie, which I don't have, and I gave that away. And then the first VHS cassette that I ever bought, was Back to the Future Part 3. Sorry, Back to the Future Part 2, not Part 3. And that was the first VHS movie that I ever bought. And I remember, as I told this story in my Back to the Future Part 2 VHS cassette video, running all the way down to Woolworths when it came out on it was a Saturday, so it could have been somewhere in 1999, well, whenever it got released. And I remember running in there, going to pick it up, buying. I even remember how much it was, and it was $12.99, and the pocket money that I had saved up, and I just bought it and ran back home, just to watch it, because I was just looking forward to it. And then it was after that, it was a mixture of either recording movies on blank VHS cassettes or buying them. And then I remember when we first had our first VHS cassette player, and I remember it was a top loader, and it was a Ferguson. And that's how much the memories that I have. And my aunt, she had a VHS cassette recorder before us, and then she was a big James Bond fan, especially with the Sean Connery. So that's how I got into James Bond, because of my aunt. And that's how I fell in love with movies. And eventually, as I said before, I was able to afford to buy them. Then they would do them in sales, or like especially in HMV, or you would record them off TV, as I said. And then eventually I started renting them from places like Blockbusters, or when we used to go down to South London to visit my gran and my aunt on the weekends or summer holidays. My aunt used to rent videos from this newsagents, and that's how I eventually first saw things like the Lethal Weapon movies and the Die Hard movies, and I have such a huge memory. Even although I was underage when I was watching them, but nevertheless, I still have those memories when my aunt used to rent out those movies, and it was just fun. And then eventually, we switched over to DVD, and then they would do, and then I was buying up the DVDs cheap, and then they would do like 5 DVDs for £10 in HMV, and then some of them obviously I've still got on DVD, and then we moved, and it was Blu-ray, and I got 1 or 2 4K Blu-rays, because obviously some of them have got like the Blu-ray, the 4K Blu-ray, and the DVD all in one. And yeah, I did even have a movie collection. Now I've got my own. I've pretty much got my own movie collection, and although it's easier these days to just stream movies, and especially if it's expensive, I still love having the physical media of movies. Similar thing with video games, and my collection of TV shows. Like I've got a complete collection of from Smallville seasons 1 to 10. Supernatural, I've nearly got all of them. 24, I've got every single one of them. Sliders, I've got all of them except for the last season 5. And in even some of the sitcoms from the 80s and 70s, I've been slowly collecting them. And some of these sitcoms from the 90s as well, things like Only Fools and Horses, One Foot in the Grave. Some mothers do have them. George and Mildred, Waiting for God. There's so many stuff, that for me that I love. I've always loved movies in general, and whether it's been I don't really watch horror or romantic movies because it's just not my cup of tea. Well, some people do, but things like action, sci-fi, which I love, action and sci-fi, comic book stuff, which is a lot of, which is pretty obvious that I'm into that with DC and Marvel. And later on, I got to watching like things like movie thrillers and suspense movies, and which I wasn't really kind of into before. And so I built, and then even things like Harry Potter, I got into that, the movies, I got into that late in the game. And even same with 24, where my brother started watching 24 before I did. Supernatural, I really only started watching it from season 4, and then I went back and watched the previous seasons, and then I was hooked ever since. And yeah, I've just had a love for movies and TV shows. But again, it's similar with video games. It's like, although I'm still collecting it, as you see me doing unboxing videos of Blu-rays and Blu-ray movies and DVD movies as well, I'm starting to fall out of love with that, because on social media, and a similar thing again on YouTube, there's so much hatred where there's so much hate, where people just where people seem to some YouTubers are being overtly racist in their review of TV shows or particular characters in superhero movies or in movies in general. They then try to bring politics into it, and it becomes very political with movies now, with some of these YouTubers, especially the right-wing ones. And for me, there's no, back in the day, it wasn't, even in the certain movies, there were political threads in certain movies and TV shows. That wasn't the main focus of the TV show, the movie. It was the actual essence and the story and the character. And now it's just become very political. And regardless of what side of the fence that you sit on, whether you're right or you're left, I don't like politics being brought into movies and people using it. And then same thing, and then similar thing with TV shows as well, where people are just becoming very political about movies, and then try to, everything is woke, this, that, and the other, even though the whole terminology of what woke actually means, it's being bastardized as usual, which happens with every word, where if you actually look at the terminology of what woke actually means, and then what's funny is that before people use the terminology of woke, what were people saying 10, 20 years ago? They weren't saying woke. And to me, it feels like some of these YouTubers, especially the right-wing ones, they only use that terminology because they're just trying to create outrage so that they get a particular audience, so they get the interaction, the views, and the hits onto their YouTube channel and the subscribers. And that's what it seems to me that they seem to be doing. Because what I've noticed, and again, with what some of these people do in a YouTube channel, right, I don't subscribe to them, and they're fully entitled to do what they want on their YouTube channel, because it's their YouTube channel. the creator of what they want to do in a YouTube channel. But it's just, don't expect me to sit there and to follow it. I'm not going to sit there and start doing things like calling out names and start slagging them off, because again, that's not what I do. I mean, it's horses for courses, and in my view, people can do what they want. But what I don't like is, about with a lot of them, is that when you look at a lot of their content, they keep talking about a particular subject matter that they don't like. And if you said it once that you don't like it, you don't like it. But then don't keep going on about it. Then they keep, every video is negative outrage, hate, negative outrage, avoid racism. And it's like in every video, you never ever see them make a cut of like a few videos where they're actually positive and like something, because obviously they've hit a target audience. And for me, for my YouTube channel, although if I wanted my channel to be a lot bigger, I could do that. I could do that, where I could be a lot more negative, and I could, because I'm somebody that kind of in real life that people know that I vent and get a little bit too emotional about certain things, and I could do that and deal it with and start doing content where I'm arguing about every single thing. But that's not what it's about. What kind of encouraged me to do videos was seeing other YouTubers, watching people do playthroughs of video games, especially when I couldn't afford them, and seeing their way of completing a video game, especially when a video game has got multiple ways of doing a particular video game, for example, like the Hitman games, or watching somebody do a video game completely perfectly, or getting every single, especially on the PlayStation or Xbox, trying to get every single trophy for that video game and doing it 100% perfectly, and then thinking, wow, that's amazing, or doing a speed through of a game and they can do it without being hit. And it's all watching people play Street Fighter games or the Mortal Kombat games and seeing their skill set. And I thought, wow, that's entertaining and fun. And that's what kind of, and so that inspired me to do my YouTube channel, because a lot of what you see me do on my YouTube channel, it's pretty much, that's who I am. I'm never about trying to do things that aren't me. So for example, you see my Blu-ray and DVD collections, and I love movies, as you can see with my the movies that I already have here, and the Blu-ray videos that I've started doing, unboxing videos that I've done, or the movie that I've done on my channel, or of late I've done movie reviews, which I've done as movie shorts, which I've been kind of short and not really in depth, because I'm trying to do something different. Or I don't necessarily do the latest movies. It's just what I have to have in my collection. Or you see my statues and my superhero statues and figures in collection, because I love comic book characters, whether it's DC or Marvel. You've seen some of my comic books collection, which I absolutely love. I've told you, said it, and how many times I've said in videos in the past that how much I love comic books, and how I loved enjoying reading comic books as a kid, and going to collect comics every week as a kid, and I still do now. And in the summer, going to my local, when my local comic place used to have a store in my local market, and collecting, and then when they used to do like a summer sale or a winter Christmas sale or summer sale, I would buy like a lot of the comics in the sales. Or when I would travel around London, or when I would go down, I would visit the comic book shops. Of a lot of them I've gone in central London now, and going down to Forbidden Planet, or in South London, where there used to be comic shops where my sister and my other family used to live, and well, that's gone as well. And I used to go up there in the hot summer with my brother, using our pocket money and buying a ton of comics and really reading them. And then even I've got thousands upon thousands of comics. I would say I probably got about, I wouldn't be surprised if I had about 50,000 comics by now, or maybe even more than that, because the amount of comics me and my brother have collected over the years. Or back in the day, we used to collect things like the British comics, like the Beano and the Dandy, and reading those comics, and my love of the comic books, the books like Asterix and the Adventures of Tintin and stuff like that. And I used to love comics. And so what you see in my channel, video games, trying to think of video games, comic book stuff, and pretty much what you see of what I do in there on my channel, it reflects who I am and what I love. And there's other things that I love, like I love cars, and so I used to love watching stuff like Top Gear, or buying model cars, or getting cars as a kid, and just and my dad is a mechanic, and watching him fix cars and stuff like that. So, and I would love to be able to do reviews of cars and test drive them like what other YouTubers do, because although you don't see that on my channel. But I would love to be able to do stuff like that. And then for me, it's about doing videos like that. It's about doing things that are informative, and hopefully, and then it's like finding like-minded people that enjoy and like the stuff that I love doing because of what I saw other people doing. And so it's never for me being about doing and being negative and being toxic and being outraged and stuff like that. And I know, as I said before, if I started doing that, I would get a lot more views and subscribers if I started doing that, like what these other YouTubers do. But it's not who I am. And yeah, would I love to sit there and be much bigger than where I am? Yeah, I would be. I mean, who wouldn't be? But if it means that my channel is always going to be a niche market, my channel is going to be fairly small, but I'm staying true to who I am, then I'd rather be small and independent than trying to be something that I'm not. But as I said before, whether it's video games or movies, it's just the toxicity, which, and then especially on social media, you see it on Twitter and things like that, you're seeing people being hateful, being toxic. And yeah, I use it, but I do what I have to do in it, and I just disappear, because if you stay in it long enough, whether it's that Facebook or whatever social platforms are available, it's just going to end up bringing you down. And it's the same thing, obviously, if you're being around negative and toxic people, where that can end up bringing you down, and you get sucked into that black hole of hatefulness and aura, and then you'll get accused of being lefty or all woke, all this crap. And I don't kind of really like it. I just don't like being around negative aura. I just want to sit there and enjoy life, because life is so short. I mean, when you're born, you fight to get into this world, you fight to survive when you're in this world, and then when you're on your last pegs, you're struggling to stay in this world. And nobody knows when their time is going to come. You heard about a few weeks ago the airline where all the passengers died and except for one person survived, and then one guy survived, and his brother was on the other side of the plane who died. Imagine having to live with that. Or we're hearing now about the tragedy in Texas, where a whole load of people have drowned, especially a load of children, most of them under the age of 8. And these poor kids are never going to sit there and be able to grow up and have lives and grow and have a career and have families and have children and have grandchildren, and then within the blink of an eye, these poor children and adults as well are just gone. And then all you see is people being racist, bigotry, sexism, and you see and some of it just cowardice on social media, and people just don't realize how short and how precious life can be. We've heard about the amount of actors who have died young and who have died of terrible diseases, like whether it's AIDS or cancer, and who have had to try to survive and have treatment to survive, and they've just died way before their time. And you're still seeing people being outraged and being hateful on social media, and it's just ridiculous. With me, I mean, I don't mind sharing a personal note, as some people may already know, is that I lost two cousins a couple of years ago. I lost one cousin in 2022, and I'm shaking a little bit, just trying to remember him, so I try not to get too upset. And she passed away and had 2 teenage kids, right? And she passed away, and it was a shock to the system, because there was no news of the fact that she was ill, but she just passed away and have 2 children. And then you imagine those poor kids, especially one, you know what I mean? And a year and a bit later, in 2023, I lost another cousin who was the brother of my cousin, the one that died in 2022, and then he passed away. So they were brother and sister. So I lost 2 cousins, and again, there was no kind of inkling that that was going to happen, and he died. And then I feel sorry for my aunt that she's lost 2 of her children, and what can you say to somebody? And I think sometimes it's easy to not to care and have any empathy if the person who dies, if you don't know them, or they're not family, so there's people you don't know, because you don't have to have no connection to those people. Or during the pandemic, when people died, old and young, regardless of what you believe in silly conspiracy theories, but regardless of that, people lost their lives, and you hear about it every single day, where people dying before their time. And whether you're religious or not, it's a sad thing when you see so much pain of parents, whether someone's children have been murdered, or they get an illness. And I see all the time on social media where families have lost their siblings, and it's painful because I know what that's like. And even now, although I shouldn't, I worry about my family now, or because you don't know what's going to happen. And with all these things that happen in my family, and things you hear about, and even one of my mum's family members died of, like, a year and a bit ago, died of cancer, and then they had it 3 or 4 times, and the 4th time they couldn't, that was it. And it just makes you really appreciate life. I've got health issues, some minor, some of them are really bad, and I don't like talking about it because I don't want people feeling sorry for me, or to play the violin, or to want sympathy. But for me, it made me realize is to appreciate life and to embrace life, because you don't know of what's going to happen. And that's one of the things where during the pandemic I started it. A friend of mine said to me, why don't you do your YouTube? You seem to, it's stuff that you like doing. Why don't you do it? And then I was like, no, I shouldn't. I didn't want to do it. And ever since I've took his advice, started it, I've loved it. Although it has its ups and downs when you get some trolls, or there's other things that I want to do, but you don't have the money to do it, or sometimes my health isn't kind of feeling great, or I wish I had more of the money or the expertise to be more professional with my channel, which I still hope to do in the future. But I don't regret doing it, because at least I know that I've given it a try, and I've enjoyed doing it. And then I started off with about 12 or 13 subscribers. And although I'm still a small YouTuber, I've got at the moment 879 subscribers, although that can go up or it could go down. But I'm really proud of how far I've come compared to where I am, even though I'm still relatively small. And as I said before, and then same thing with sport, where I love sport, especially football, or as Americans call it, soccer. And my particular team, Tottenham Hotspur, which people joke around about, because obviously, even though we just won something a few months ago, and there's jokes about, other teams and our rivals that joke about my club and how much we haven't won and us not being good, etc., etc. But even with football, I've fallen out, although I still love my club, because it's the club that I've supported since I was a kid. Same thing with my brother, same with my mum, same with my dad. We all supported the same Tottenham Hotspur football club. And sometimes I fall out of love with it because of the fact that the price of the football shirts, the football tickets, the way the club has been run, some players being mercenaries, and football in general, for me, it's just become too commercial, and the love of the game, for me, sometimes it's gone. And even with that, for example, there was a time when I used to really, back in the 80s and the 90s, I really used to enjoy watching football and even playing it before my knees went bad. But even things like basketball and tennis, which I used to enjoy doing, and even athletics, I used to be like the 100 meters, which I was very good at doing, and even fencing at one point I was actually really good at doing, and the high jump and pole vaulting and stuff, I was really good at it, and track and field, generally speaking, I was good at it. But with football, soccer, even that now, I've fallen out of love of it, because you see the fan base arguing with one another, even though people got their own opinion. And again, social media comes into it, because you see people arguing. And even today, I saw a friend of mine who's a Tottenham Hotspur fan, and you're getting other football fans being nasty and leaving vile comments on a friend of mine's Twitter page, and they don't even know the guy, or they don't even know him. And it's just to me, as of all, you and that guy supports another football club, and as well as my friend supports the same club as me. And you think to yourself, why are you worrying about what another football club's doing? Support your team. Don't worry about what another club. I don't worry about what other clubs are doing, because I support the club that I support. I mean, I can't worry about another team's, another football club which I don't support. And it's just the toxicity and a lot of what I see, and that's why I don't watch the news anymore, because it's very one-sided. It's very political. It divides people, and it's just, again, it's becomes negativity, and it's just the outrage. And again, I can't be done with it. And that's what I said before. Things like with football, soccer as it's called, movies now, and video games now, although I still love them, a piece of me is starting to fall out of love of it, because of, as I said before, it's just the divide that I see in it, the outrage, the politics being brought into it. And it was never like that before, with everything, with all those subjects, and probably with other subjects that I'm missing out. But it's just, I don't know. As I said before, I love movies. Every Christmas I'd watch, let's say, like a Die Hard movie. People know that I love the Back to the Future trilogy, and how I collect Back to the Future film memorabilia, because I just love the movie. I love the James Bond movies. I love although I may not have different favourite actors who've portrayed the character of James Bond, but overall, I love James Bond. There was a time when I knew all the James Bond movies line by line, because that's how much I love them. The amount of times that I've rebought the James Bond movies, where I bought the standard edition versions of them on DVD, then I would buy the special edition versions, the ultimate edition versions on DVD again. Then I would buy them again on Blu-ray, and probably I would on 4K, because I just love the movies. And the original Star Wars trilogy that I absolutely loved. That's what I grew up on. Absolutely loved it. The Indiana Jones trilogy. Absolutely loved those movies. Watching TV shows like The A-Team, although by today's standards it's stupid, to people who would find stupid. The A-Team, Knight Rider, shows like Sliders, Star Trek, The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, and Voyager. I'm probably missing out a lot, but I just love 24, Psych, Burn Notice, Fraser. There's so many, MacGyver, Smallville, as I said, The Flash, Arrow, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, Daredevil. There's so many shows that I absolutely love. And as I said, for my love of comics, you can see, look at the figures that I have there. You got Supergirl, you got Flash, you got the Iris Kid Flash, you got Kid Flash there. I think it's the Bart Allen one. You got RoboCop, you got the different Nightwings there. You got all Huntress there. You got Batman, and you can see Green Lantern, Supergirl, more Batgirl, the Superman Hush, and then you can see how much. And then I'll show you here where you got that Man of Steel poster, which is, I think it's the first issue of the Man of Steel. Yeah, it's the first issue, and it's actually made out of metal. And my friend gave it to for me for my birthday a few years ago. And so a lot, as I said, for a lot of the things that you see in my YouTube channel, it reflects on who I am and what I love. And again, as I said before, I'm just tired on social media and the outrage where people are just outraged about everything. You get people that hate everything. They want everything to fail. And then they bring politics into it, regardless of whether you're left or right, whether you're in the UK or in America. I mean, whether you agree with that whoever's in charge or not. I just hate when people, the minute that people start becoming political, whether I agree with that side of politics or not, for me, it's an instant turn off for me. Even a lot of the other YouTubers that I watch, I love watching people, say people doing cookery shows in there. I love people seeing video gameplays, podcasts, movie trivia about a movie's retrospective about a particular movie, or telling the history of the movie franchise, of a character, or a director or an actor. I love watching car videos with people reviewing the latest cars, old cars, or people buying cars, sports cars that have been wrecked or have been written off, and then they do a challenge of trying to repair it, and they end up repairing it, and it's cheaper than buying it brand new. And it's just seeing people actually putting their blood and sweat and repairing and fixing a console or a car. And I love watching stuff like that, because it's just seeing somebody with and it's inspiring seeing somebody taking something out of nothing and fixing something and making something work, which I'm envious, because I wish I could do that, being able to fix and repair. Some things I can do, but not to the extent to what some of these people do. And I love watching stuff like that, but the minute that people start being negative and, as I said, full of hatred and being outraged about something, video game or regarding a movie, like for me, it's an instant turn off, and I'm just not interested in it. So for things like social media, and as I said before, I do post when I'm putting up a new video, and I might wish somebody a happy birthday, or I might like a photo or something. And it's a similar thing with Facebook, but I don't stay on it. And even with WhatsApp, I don't use it that much anymore, although I have it. And I have an Instagram, although that probably would help boost up my channel, and other social platforms, which probably would help. But I'm not interested in kind of doing it. And even when I do reviews, I used to do long reviews of movies, but I don't do that anymore. I just try to keep it short and sweet, and then something unique and something different. And even the cinema experience, I don't go as much anymore, although I'm hoping to see the new Superman movie and Fantastic Four as well at some point. I might do a first impression review of what I think of the actual movies, but I'm not going to do anything detailed and that stuff anymore. Movie reactions to what people do, movie reactions on YouTube. Although I know people, it's, they can leave it because it's their channel. I don't like watching that anymore. There was a time back in the day when it comes to TV episodes of a show or movie reactions, I used to enjoy watching them. Now I don't anymore. I don't know, but it's just, for me, is that every time I see people purposely being outraged and using the terminology of woke and trying to divide people, it makes me slowly start to fall out of love of that particular thing, whether it's movies, as I said, TV shows, video games, even sports now. I still obviously like them because, as you can see, of the movies and video games that I have, and when I do the unboxings of them or playthroughs of the particular video games. But I don't have the same love and enthusiasm with movies and video games now as what I first did when I was much younger, because the whole innocence of it is all completely gone. Because there wasn't, as of what I miss the days of the late 80s, when you had the mid 80s, when you had like things like Ghostbusters, Back to the Future, Die Hard, RoboCop, and all those things, and you just enjoyed it. You just sat there, enjoyed it. You didn't overly think on the political correctness of it, the outrage of it, whether the gender or the sexuality got brought into it, or the politics. There was none of that in there, although I'm sure there were political things behind certain movies, especially RoboCop, where there's a lot of satire in it. But that's what made the movie what it was, and it was just fun. And same thing with music as well. Back in the mid 80s and the late in the 90s, especially with me, with R&B, with comics, I still love them, especially when they did the Death and Return of Superman. And I remember seeing that when it made the major news over here in the UK. And it was just absolutely fantastic. And as I've said a million times, going down to all the comic shops around London, I just absolutely used to love it. And then as a teenager in the summer, going out to central London in Piccadilly Circus and Leicester Square, and it was a sense of adventure. We've seen all the shops around there, going into the Trocadero, and going into the and then going into the arcades in the Trocadero, which is long since closed years and decades ago, and playing with different arcade machines like Total Carnage and some of the racing games, Cruising USA, Killer Instinct, Smash TV, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Daytona USA. There's so many games that go down to the arcades, and I remember one of the first arcade games I played was the Pac-Mans and the RoboCop arcade game. Was it made by Data East? I remember going playing out in the arcades, and everything was a sense of adventure. Going down to Cheddar Caves, which was great. Western Supermare, going down to Southend. It was just fun, and everything was just everything. I missed those days because everything was a sense of adventure. It's a similar thing with Christmas, where Christmas actually felt like Christmas, and the excitement of Christmas. Now even that's gone, and it's all about commercialism now. It's just nothing. It's like, and I think it goes back to what I said about my video about we're not allowed to have nice things anymore, because we're not allowed to enjoy things anymore. And I remember seeing Superman 3 in the cinema with my brother and with my dad, and I remember getting this Superman A4 booklet, which folded out into a massive poster, which I saw on eBay at the time was worth hundreds and hundreds now. So I wish I kept it. And going to the cinema on a regular basis, and I remember when they re-released the original Star Wars trilogy in 1997, the special editions, and seeing those movies twice. And as soon as they were released on VHS as a box set, which I remember that it was gold, pardon me, I bought them as a VHS box set. When they came out as a DVD box set, I ended up buying them. If I can show you here, you can still see that I've got these Star Wars Saga, which has got the original which has got the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy. This, you can see the Star Wars Force Awakens 3D, which has got the Blu-ray 3D, Blu-ray and bonus disc. I bought that. I've got that normally. I think I've got it here. You can see here that I've got the Force Awakens here, and then I rebought it. Even Rogue One, although I half enjoyed it, and I still bought it because I just love Star Wars. And even the new trilogy that came out, obviously with Rey and Poe, I still bought them because I just loved Star Wars. And again, as I thought, I got late into the Harry Potter movies, and I've got all of them now, and I've got some of them as I got some of them the year 3, year 4 as Ultimate Editions, which by the way they cost a lot of money now. And I've actually really enjoyed the Harry Potter movies. Although when I first saw them advertised, I just wasn't really interested in them. And again, how much I loved movies is I remember going out and buying my 32-inch 1080p TV, which I've still got, and that's a Toshiba. Well, I do want a 4K, and then going out and then investing in a 5.1 home cinema system, which is a Sony. So it's over 25 years old now, which I really need to get a new one now, like a 7.1. And I really need to get a new one now. And the reason, and I was debating whether or not I should, at the time, in buying a 5.1 home cinema system, and I really wanted to buy something that would at least half replicate the cinema system that you would have in a cinema, although it's not, obviously, and even when it was in its prime, it wasn't anywhere as big or as grand as going to a cinema. And I remember setting up my 5.1 cinema system, and I remember that bit in Back to the Future where Marty, spoiler alert, manages to get back to 1985, and the bit where you actually hear the helicopter. And I remember you could hear the helicopter just traveling around my entire living room. So it sounded like it was, like the police helicopters that you would hear going around. Or if you were watching a movie and there was a lot like a thunderstorm, or if it was raining. And I remember family, people like my mum actually thought it was raining, and I had to tell her, Mum, no, it's the actual, it's from the 5-point home cinema system, which is making it sound like it's raining. And I said, look, and I'll draw back the curtains and go, see, mum, look, see, look, it isn't raining at all. And then she was kind of shocked by it. And that's how much I love movies. And if money was no object, I would buy like a massive TV, the best state-of-the-art cinema, home theatre sound system that you could possibly get if money was no object. And I would get it because that's how much I love movies. And again, as I said before, earlier on, when it comes to movies, I had no movies at all. And then even when we had our VHS VHS cassette recorder, we had to record them off the TV, which you're obviously not really supposed to do. And then I always wanted to have my own, mini movie collection, and I'm living that dream where I've got tons of movies, whether or not they're on DVD or on Blu-ray. And you know, some movies are better than others. You know, some movies I might absolutely like, but other people may not like, and that's fine, because it's horses for courses, because there's some things that I'm gonna love. And like I don't really like romance films, and some people do, and that's fine. And some people don't like. I'm not scared of horror films, but I'm just not into them. They don't do anything for me. But there's friends of mine that absolutely love horror films, and they're entitled to love them. And sometimes and again, as I said before, that's just the whole point of video games and movies and stuff, because sometimes we need that escapism. Because as I said before, you know, what happened, like in the pandemic. Like I remember when my first cousin died, and how I dealt with and I was really upset, because obviously both cousins was extremely close. We're similar in age, although they were older than me. And how I escaped from the tragedy of losing them and trying not to think but to get upset was I played video games, or I watched a movie that I know that I loved, and it would put a smile on my face, because it kind of cheered me up. Or sometimes when I'm feeling down, I put on a funny movie, or play a favorite video game that I like, and it kind of brings me out of that funk. And recently I bought the Pink Panther, the Pink Panther 5 disc movie collection. And well, it's not 5 discs, but 6 discs, but it's 5 movies in there. And I've only watched the Pink Panther movies bit by in bits and pieces over the years. And with I think it's the second Pink Panther film, I think it's called A Shot in the Dark, which was the second one. And I saw the last 30 to 20 minutes of it on Sky Movies, and I never laughed so much in my entire life. And then I saw a bit of the next one, not all of it. And then I thought to myself, you know what, right? I'm going to go and buy the Pink Panther movie collection. And then I did. And you've seen the unboxing of that now. So now I'm looking forward to watching that. TV shows like Red Dwarf, obviously, by the budget standards, in terms of the budget of what they did, that was kind of pretty cheap, but it was absolutely fun. And it's still a classic TV series. And the original Star Trek, for example, it's just a lot of fun. It's just that, and that's why I loved comics. Is that form of escapism, especially not having a lot of friends. Video games, playing Super Mario Brothers, to support Street Fighter 2, and then with the newer games now, Uncharted, Dead Space, Forza. The Sonic games I still like them, even though I'm completely crap at playing them. Gran Turismo, which I first played on the PlayStation 1. The Resident Evil games, like Resident Evil 4, the original one on GameCube. You got Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4 remake. There's just so many games, and I've got so many games to play through, whether it's on the Switch 2, the PlayStation and Xbox. And you got the EA Plays, and you got Game Pass, and you got PlayStation Plus if you don't want to buy them. But there's so much, and I think sometimes, again, we take life for granted. We take things for granted because we're enriched with movies, with sport for choice. Whether you want to go to your cinema, there's different streaming services available. Not all the streaming services available in whichever country you're in. Like, for example, here in the UK. We don't have HBO Max, or whatever it's going to be called now. We don't have that here in the UK. But you have Amazon, you've got Netflix, you've got Disney Plus, your sport for choice. So you don't have to leave the Marvel movies within a month after they come out in the cinema. They get put onto Disney Plus, so you can get to watch it as long as you've got the subscription. You can watch on your TV, you can watch on a tablet, you can watch on your mobile phone, on your iPad, on your laptop. If you've got internet access elsewhere, you can sit down and watch, and then you've got access that you can watch it from there. Video games, you can buy the games digitally or subscribe to services. We're so enriched and spoilt for choice and what we have available, and I think sometimes people just think they have a sense of entitlement. And again, as I said about the YouTubers, right, I'm not gonna call out names and stuff because that's not the thing that I do. I don't like doing that to people, even if I don't like what they do. But for me, I don't personally like that of what they're entitled to do what they want to do, as much as I do what I want to do on my YouTube channel. And maybe some people like my channel, maybe some people don't, and that's fine, because not everything's going to be everything for everybody. But I just think sometimes in life we miss defining things in life, and we don't appreciate the things that we have in life. And sometimes, well, I think we're a little bit too spoiled. And as I said before, life is just so short, and that's why for me, especially all the things, the personal things that gone on in my life, I even bought myself years ago a skateboard, even though I'm never going to use it, because one, I've got no sense of balance, and two, I've got bad knees. But as a kid, I always wanted to have a skateboard, but I could never have one because my mum was always worried about me having an accident. But I've actually got a skateboard, which I've done an unboxing video of it, and I can turn and say, you know what, I can tick that off the box. And there's other things that I've done but I never would have done before because I took a chance on it, and then I've actually enjoyed it. Certain types of movies, say like political thrillers, I never used to like them because I used to think they were boring, because I was just more of an action and sci-fi. And as I got older, and a similar thing with certain video game genres, I wasn't in, because I didn't have the patience for them. And now I or even different types of foods, I actually enjoy them now, because, you know, as I say, variety is a spice of life. But as I said, it comes back to what I said earlier on, is that it's like people, we can't have nice things. And the line that I remember from The Dark Knight, in what Bruce Wayne was trying to talk to Alfred in The Dark Knight, when he couldn't understand why the Joker was doing what he was doing, because he was obviously that when people do things, they do things. There's usually a motivational reason as to why people do things. I know about Alfred said to Bruce Wayne, sometimes, Master Bruce, he said, there are people that just want to see the world burn. And he's 100% right. Where people just want to see the world burn. People don't want you to sit there and to enjoy life, and for people to be successful, or to have nice things, whether it's movies, or even when you have nice things in this world, you get people on social media, or I get comments sometimes, people hating because I have something, and it wasn't easy. That particular thing may not been easy to get, or I've had to wait and save up to get a particular thing, and it wasn't easy to sit there to get. And then you get people being jealous rather than sitting there and trying to get it themselves. Or, you know, there are ways of, like, a lot of the things that I've wanted to get, I've had to be patient, save up, and then even wait years, and I've finally managed to get there and get what I want. And there's other things that I want to do in my YouTube channel that I have big plans to do, and which I don't want to talk about because I don't want to jinx them. And a couple of new ideas that I want to do for my YouTube channel, which hopefully people will like. But once I'm able to do this certain thing, then you'll be seeing some new, different content on my YouTube channel. And cross my fingers that everything goes according to plan. But again, that's why sometimes, again, I prefer just keeping myself to myself and keeping away from certain things, because it's, again, I don't like the negativity. I don't like the politics behind anything, regardless of what side of whether you're right or left. I don't like it all being brought into anything. I don't like the excuse of just things like wokeness being brought into things. I don't like hatred and people being horrible to other people, or bullying or harassment. I don't like anything. If there's something about somebody I don't like, I just leave it. I just want to enjoy life, because as I said before, nobody knows when their time's going to come. And I'll say one quick final thing, personal thing, that a couple of years ago, I won't say how, I basically I found out that I had a little bit, I could have died. And when I found out about it, it shocked me to the core. And this was before my two cousins died. And it really put a shock on my face when I was told what would happen if I didn't change certain things, that I would be gone. And I started thinking about myself. I started thinking about some of my close friends, and most importantly, I started thinking about my family. And then it made me see everything in a new light, in terms of what could have happened. And then in the end, I managed to turn things around. I'm not going to lie and say that things aren't necessarily perfect, and I won't bore people as to what it was, or go on about it, or want people's sympathy, because I know people don't care because they don't know me. But what it did for me on a personal level, and again, losing people and hearing about tragedies around the world, it started to put my life into perspective. And I will say this to anybody, that life is short. If there's something that you want to go out there and do it. If you want to sit there and start a YouTube channel, even if you have, if it's something that people may not have a lot of interest in, do it. If it's something that you want to do. Like, there was this person that I knew was working in a retail place. They were doing painting, and they were contemplating about set up a YouTube channel. I said, it's easy. I said, as long as you got an internet, a mobile phone, and you've got a YouTube app, which, like what I'm doing here, you can download it to your YouTube. Even if 4 people see it, even if one person sees it, and even if the years down the line, it takes years before you get subscribers or you get 1 or 2 viewers, it doesn't matter. It's you're living the dream. And I would say to all of you is that don't let anybody, or within reason, or as long as it's legal, stop you doing a passion that you want to do. Whether it's to travel around the world, whether it's to do a YouTube, whether it's to review movies, to play video games, whether it's to be an actor or do sports, or to watch, to play sports, whatever it may be. If you have a dream, fulfill it, do it, because you don't want to end up doing, thinking about doing something and end up regretting not later on in life not doing it. Because as I said, life is just so short. And instead of people being outraged, hating, being evil, and being vile, use that energy to help other people. Using that positive energy to help somebody else who maybe is in a worse position than you. And we don't do that in life, and we just spend all of it trying to hate on other people. That's why even YouTubers who are bigger than me, I try to watch and interact on their YouTube channels. I try to retweet when they're streaming on Twitch or on YouTube, because I want to be able to help other people. And I've always been like that, where if I've got the energy, even what little energy I have, even with my health, I try to listen. If someone's going through a bad thing over the phone, family or friends, I try to be there to be there for people, because that being that friendship or being that person to call upon or to talk to could be a matter, or it could be anything between a matter of life and death. Especially with a lot of people suffering from mental health issues, a lot of depression, especially and social media doesn't help revive this with bullying and stuff like that. And sometimes people's outlet, especially during the pandemic, and even with depression as well, could be movies and going to the cinema, traveling around, playing video games. And this is what helps people. And I can honestly say that I suffered from, I was going through depression when I was younger. And what saved me, funny enough, was movies, especially sci-fi movies, what I love, superhero movies, comics. For me, that helped me a lot. Video games, again, that helped me go through it a lot. It was like a healing process. And also music as well. Those things were for me what helped me a lot get through all the bad times in life. And if it wasn't for these things, I don't know if I still would be standing here right now. If I'm being honest with you, for these things, and all these things helped me. So that's why I'm very passionate about people hating and bringing things down and trying to belittle people, and as for some of these YouTubers making constant content about hating and hating and hating and hating. And I can't be a part of that. And I can't be around that kind of negative, destructive, hateful aura. So that's why, leaving you with this last final thought, that's why I do YouTube. I do it because I love it and I do enjoy it. Although sometimes it can be hard work. It's stuff that I like. I love doing. I've got other stuff I would love to do, as I said. And hopefully, if there's somebody who is going through a bad time in life, and if my video, I'm not trying to be, because obviously there's bigger YouTubers than me, but if one of my videos that I do entertains anybody wherever you are in the world who's going through a bad time, then I've done my job. And that's all you can ask for in life, that you help and you entertain other people, especially in this very short life, which is a very difficult, especially with politics, poverty now, and struggling to make ends meet in this world. It's not an easy life, and health as well. So I don't like seeing all this negative stuff, and I didn't really want to make a video and just doing these things, but I just had to get this off my chest, because I don't like seeing people being divided in this world. I want to see people, all of us being together, because we are one people, and you only have one shot in life, and none of us know when our time is going to come. So sorry for the long video, but I had to get this video off my chest. So hopefully the next few videos will be something a lot more positive and a lot more uplifting. And don't let people bring you down in life, whether it's on social media or people you know, or people bully or harass you in life. Don't let people ever bring you down in life. The only way is up.